Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Prof Sales YouTube channel, everyone. It is, what is today? Monday, December 13th. We are almost through Q4. We got a couple more weeks to go. And I'm really excited to be here today. Let me take that off. Sorry about that. But yeah, so welcome to the channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is Jason, otherwise known as Prof Sales, or Prof Sales, otherwise known as Jason, however you prefer it. And this is a channel where we're talking about selling on Amazon. We also talk some about eBay and Instagram and other, shall we say, avenues for doing e-commerce and so on. And I'm glad you've joined me today. Sorry, I have my Virginia Championship Cup. Yes, I'm a UVA fan. If you are, shout out to you. But today, I want to talk to you about something very specific. A couple things, actually. I'm going to share with you guys some results. I try to be very transparent on this channel. I want to share with you my results really for November, but also through the whole year, and how I'm closing on 80,000 in sales this year for Amazon. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it or not. It's going to be close. Let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me okay. And also, I appreciate you guys coming on and everything, but it's always nice when you hit the like button or subscribe, just as it says down below. So if you have a question about anything, please type it with a question mark, just so I know it's a question. Kind of makes it stick out. All right. So I know that a lot of people who watched this channel in the past and are still watching today are really, there's probably a lot of eBay sellers out there. There's some Amazon sellers, or some who do both. I am predominantly Amazon now, but I was predominantly eBay at one point. And I think that both have their place in the reselling world. But I have realized in the last few months that, probably more so than I ever did, that Amazon is a way that you can really magnify your results and step your business up a level. Now, it doesn't come without its own set of challenges. There's a bunch of challenges, and I'm going to talk about some of those today. Some of the challenges I've had as of late. I will kind of share with you guys some of my recent results and kind of my recent aha moments, maybe. I don't know if they're aha moments, but something like that. And hopefully it'll be helpful to you. I encourage you to reach out in the chat or in the comments after this video post. Catch up with me on Facebook. I'm not hard to find. And just, I like having conversations with people about their business. I like talking about business. I like dissecting people's business models, figuring out how to make them better, learning what I can take from it, just to be perfectly honest, and just, moving forward with a better model, a better mousetrap. So I think that there's no one out there who has it all down pat. I think there's a lot of people out there who have pieces of the puzzle. I was talking with a friend of mine today, and it's like, we were talking about how you hear somebody talk about one part of business and it's like, oh, well, that's interesting, but they don't give you the other 3 or 4 things you need to know on how to achieve that. And it kind of is a letdown, and you go out thinking, oh, I can do that so easily. And it's not so easy to do some of these things. So I like talking about business and figuring out those things. So if you have seen me on Facebook, if you're here in the channel, please, I really like questions and comments and starting dialogues with people about their business and so on. Lisa actually asked a question right now. It says, do you know how many items you can store in your eBay drafts at one time? Ooh, that's a good question, Lisa. I don't know the answer to that. I feel like it's quite a few. If anybody else knows the answer to that, please put in the chat now in the comments if you're watching this later. I don't remember. There's probably a limit, but it's a big limit. Because I want to feel like at one point I was doing drafts on clothing because I was selling a lot of jeans, and I thought, wow, I could just create a draft for Lucky Brand jeans and create a draft for Citizens of Humanity jeans, and and then just go in and fill in details really, really quickly. And there was not like a big, it didn't seem like there was any kind of really limit at that time. But if anybody else knows if there's a limit to drafts on eBay, please put that in the chat so we can get an answer to that. But it's a good question. As I've talked about, I've started moving towards Amazon, and it's a grind. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Amazon it's a beast. It's a e-commerce beast, and it needs to be fed consistently, or you will not get good results. And even though that's great, it creates a lot of anxiety sometimes around, am I sourcing the right things? Am I spending the right amount for them? Am I getting the right amount of sell through? All these questions. I don't remember feeling this way about eBay. And I think it's because when you're sending stuff into Amazon, you have to worry about storage fees. You have to worry more about getting restrictions of brands. You have to worry about IP complaints, probably to a higher level than you do on eBay, even though eBay has some of that with their Vero program. There's all these other complexities to Amazon that make it a little bit more difficult. But I'm going to share with you guys where I'm at year to date. So I'm going to show you, this is straight into my Amazon seller account. So, and if you're, little side note here, if you're in a Facebook group, or you're in a reseller group, or you're following some of the reseller on YouTube or whatever, Instagram, whatever, and they're telling you about, their results, and they're telling you about how great they're doing as a reseller and so on, that's all fine and well and good. Ask for proof. And I don't mean ask for proof in the sense of you're totally disbelieving them, or you're being disrespectful to them. I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm saying that if someone is going to tell you how to do something because they're doing it better than you, they should have no problem with proving their results. They should have no problem with providing proof to say, this is how this is how I'm doing it, and here's the results of it. That's being authentic. That's being honest. It's a reasonable question. I mean, if you went to go take lessons from someone to play golf, for instance, you would expect that they were some sort of golf pro. They may not be Tiger Woods, but they would be pretty good at golf, and they would definitely be good at teaching golf. And you'd want some sort of accreditation around that, or teaching credentials. Same thing with this. So often people get caught up in the whole, oh my gosh, this guy's got a group and he says he's doing $1 million a year on Amazon, and I'm just going to do it just like he is. And then it turns out he's not. I know there are people like that in the reselling community, unfortunately. And I'm not going to name names, but they're out there, and their bona fides are not what they say they are, or they're misleading people into thinking that they have competency in things that they really don't. And sometimes it comes from a place of deception. Sometimes it comes from a place of just, they think they know something more than they do. And there's nothing wrong with you don't have to wait to be an expert on something to teach someone else, but you have to have at least a minimal level of, hey, I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, before you can tell somebody how to do something else. And like, you have no experience with it. That, that's crazy. That's like, I might tell you I'm great at doing brain surgery, but are you really going to trust me to operate on your head just because I say so? No, you're probably going to expect that I have a medical degree. I have experience. I belong to a health organization. I have reviews. I have accreditations. I keep going with, you're going to want those things. You're going to want to see all those things before you allow someone to put you under the knife. And you should do the same thing with your business, whether you're part-time, full-time. You should ask for proof in a way that's respectful, but also allows the person to verify what they're telling you is their accreditation, their demonstrated competency in something. I don't think that's unreasonable. So that's why I like to share with you guys results, my actual results, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And there's always some of each. So I'm going to show you my sales dashboard right now, if I can get this sharing to work here. Okay. All right. So, and I'm going to take this to full screen for a moment so you can see a little better. Yeah, so this is inside my seller dashboard, and you can see right here, I have it set up for year to date to December 13th. So it probably doesn't have today's sales in there. And this is both Amazon and as FBM sales as well. Year to date, 2,293 items sold. I sold a lot of books at the beginning of the year and then switched to OA and RA in the summer. that has resulted in $74,724 of sales, 1.04 units per order, and an average selling price of $32.59. That number is continuing to rise. And I think if you are getting into the Amazon game, you should probably seek to at least have a minimum $30 average on Amazon, especially if you're doing FBA. Otherwise, the fees become very, very difficult to overcome. All right, you can see down here, this has got, so the blue, this kind of bluish line is this year so far, and the red is last year. And this is kind of interesting. Like you can see where the units, like you can see like in August, I was selling a lot of books and I actually sold more units in August than I did this year. I don't know. I think the sales, yeah, it was a little bit higher in the sales last year. But then, as it goes along, yes, I sold a lot of units in December or in December last year, but we haven't finished December for this year yet. So we'll see where this ends up, but I'll probably be less units because I was selling books. You can see there's 471 units last year versus 166 so far. But you notice that 166 units has generated $6,000 of sales. And last year, the 471 only generated $9,000. Now, do I think I'm going to double the rest of the month? I don't know. Maybe. It depends on how well they get in, how well the shipments get in. But you can see those are your actual numbers. So over here, you've got the order product sales. This is just units ordered, and this is order product sales. So it's just the way Amazon breaks this out and does this a little bit differently. So anyway, so that's where I'm at for the year. I'm agonizingly close to that 80,000, less than 6,000 to go, 5,300 to go. That's definitely doable in the next 18 days. I don't know what that works out to, 400 a day, almost a little less than 400 a day. Possible. I've been having some $600 days as of late. So not too bad. All right, let me stop with that one for a moment. All right, and I'm going to show you some other things from that. I don't just necessarily, oh, Sadie says, well done on the 80K. Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Next year, it's going to be well over 100. No doubt about it. I'm looking to do 200 next year, actually, minimum, maybe more. So 80K this year, which a late start, getting started in late August, really. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to show you some sales and order by month here. Actually, I'll do the whole year. All right, so let me share this one with you too. Hopefully you guys can see this okay. I'm sorry for the, it's kind of tricky with these facts and figures. Sometimes they're not the best in terms of seeing them well. All right, so this screen is my sales year to date as well, or for 1 year rather. So you can this shows you kind of what I've done each month. So you can see back in January and February and March and April, I was not selling a lot. And then, June and May, it got a little better. I started sourcing more in May. I actually quit my job in Amazon in May, if I remember correctly. And then June, it started growing. July went backwards just a tiny bit. August, the same thing. I don't really remember why it went back so much here. I think it was because we were moving and we had a vacation that we were gone for about 10 days in August. So we were just gone and not sending in a lot of stuff. Then in September, it was game on, almost broke the 10K mark in September, crashed through it in October at 11-13. Pretty strong month in November, 11-8. I had a little bit of a slowdown at the beginning of November. That's probably why that's a little bit lower, but I'm pretty happy with those numbers. So yeah, and again, 2,389 units, which is not really that much if you're a big, huge Amazon seller, but for me, it's a pretty good number. Yeah. All right. So I want to share some other things with you guys today too, that it's just kind of been on my mind. Sales are all well and good, but here's the big question for you. And the question I have for you, especially if you're out there in somebody else's group and so on, you're trying to get better at the selling game, especially for all you newbies out there. Are you making any money? Are you making any money? Are you making any profit? And the profit you're making, is it worth it? That's a big, big, huge question for a lot of people in this community. I was talking with somebody today and I said, I used to 5 years ago when I was first jumped on YouTube, I remember people talking YouTube videos. Look, on eBay, usually not Amazon, look at this pair of, toenail clippers. I made 100% ROI on this. And they paid $1 for it and made $1 profit. And it's like, you made 100% ROI, but it's $1. It costs you some money to source that. It costs you time to source it. It costs you time to photograph it, create the listing, ship it, and so on. Not all dollars are created equal. Like, dollars are great, but you have to look at what goes into making those dollars, right? Was it worth it, the time and energy you had to put into it? And would you have been better suited doing something else with that money? So that kind of got me to thinking about, well, how well have I been doing as of late? Let me move this over here to the side. And I guess I'm doing okay. Like, I feel like I'm still relearning this OARA game. And because of that, it's making me, learn a bunch of hard lessons here. I'm going to try to make this a little bit bigger. Yeah, let's see if this works. I'm gonna show you guys for those of you who don't know, for those of you who've been here a while, I love spreadsheets. It's a sickness, but some spreadsheets are really good and really worth it. Others are kind of a waste of time, and I've had some experience with both. But I think the point of spreadsheets, anything like that in your business, you got to track your results, right? You got to track and see what's going on with your business, or if you go on, like, if you watch the shows like The Profit or Shark Tank, for instance, which I love both those shows. One of the things that people get tripped up sometimes, they don't know their numbers. They don't know the basics of their business. And then when someone who's looking to invest in it asks them those numbers and they don't know, they look like they are really out of touch. You have to know your numbers. Like, I'm sorry, it's just part of being in business. If you don't know your numbers, you don't even know if what you're doing is really worth it or not. So I'm going to share with you some of my numbers that I've been looking at over the past, we'll say 4 months, 5 months, actually. And this revolves around OA and RA. So Sadie, I saw your question about RA or wholesale, and I think this is going to answer your question right here. Let me go ahead and share. This is a Google sheet that I created, and I created this very simply. And let me tell you what I mean by that. I created this sheet I'm gonna go back to the side here. No, I guess I'll go here. Let's go here. Yeah. All right. So I created this sheet to track and see if how much it's costing me to get the sales I'm getting. Maybe that's the best way to put it. So you see over here in this column, there is a big OA cell here and cell A10. And then there's an RA here in 18. And this is really what I've been sourcing. And I started in in August. And the reason I did that is because that's really when I switched over to OA and RA sourcing was August. It wasn't really in July, not if I'm honest, not hardly at all. It really started in August. So I'm like, I need to kind of have a baseline to start. So this starts in August. And this shows basically some various things here. And I'm going to explain what these are. So let me say this, because I think this is important. I was, even up till just 48 hours ago, I was very concerned with how much money I'm spending, right? And like we all should be. But the way I was calculating that spending was, oh, well, I bought these items and they're going to be shipped to me, maybe, and they're going to be in great shape. Maybe I'm not going to need to cancel this shipment. It's not going to get canceled. Maybe these items aren't going to be damaged when they show up. Maybe, and they're going to be, here, and I'm going to be able to send them in. All those maybes on a lot of items are no's, because things happen. Like, orders get canceled, they get cut down. If you've done OA sourcing, you know this. You get them and you realize it was wrong, or there was something wrong with the lead list item. So many things can go wrong with this process. So what I did with this is I said, what's important is not what I ordered, but what I actually shipped in. Does that make sense? It doesn't really matter what I ordered. I mean, it does from a cash flow standpoint somewhat, but it matters what got shipped in, what I actually physically got and either shipped it in or sold FBM. I'm doing a little bit of FBM, but not much. So when you see this OA unit shipped, that's what that means. So you can see here in August, I shipped in 83 units, September 234, 263, 245, and then 17 this month. I got to get on the stick. And here's what I spent on those, because this goes into just like what my batch supply numbers were from spending, the spending of all those on those items. I pull in my batch info from Inventory Lab, which is a great program. It tracks all your sales and your inventory and your spending and yada, 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 and all that good stuff. So this is what I spend each month: $2,400, $4,485, $50, $57, $45, $33, yada, yada. That is what I actually spent on what I sent in, not what I spent total, because I probably, and it gets kind of fluid because sometimes what you buy in one month, you send in the next month, and then, there's shipping times, right? Spend per unit, 2880, 1920, 1920, 1885, 1850, and 1910. And then this number, Sadie, to your point, is the percentage of all the items that I shipped, or all the spend I had, what percentage of it was OA. And you can see in August, it was 93% OA, 68% in September, 67, 71, and then 50% in December so far. This one right here is just the list price, and this all comes right out of your batch info and Inventory Lab. It's really super simple. This basically means how much value it should sell for at the moment that you priced it when you sent it in or you list it on Amazon. So 45.84, 95.72, 11.4, 10.48, 7.66. All right, so we won't look at December much because there's not much going on in December yet. And then this last one is just the list divided by the spend. So it's this number divided by this number. And it just kind of gives you like a ratio. Like, all right, for every, $1,000 you send in, or for maybe a better way to look at that is for every $1,000 you spend in, you're listing about $2,000 worth. Or here you're listing about $2,100, $2,200, so on. Which that, by the way, is about the ratio, gang. That's about the ratio for a lot of OA. If you spend $1,000 on OA, that's probably going to have a sell value of somewhere from around 2,000 to maybe 22 to even maybe 2,400. I'm talking about OA, general OA, nothing special. You're not looking for only home runs, just bread and butter, base hit every kind of day stuff. RA is down here. You can see not a lot of RA units in August, but it grew in September and then October and November. The spend in those was obviously less than it was in OA. I'm spending more on OA partly because of where I live now, it's hard to do a lot of RA here. It's a lot further to drive. So OA makes a little more sense. Spend per unit, the percentage, and then total list. And you can see the list spend ratio for RA is much higher. So for every $1,000 in September of RA that I sent in $2,800 of sell value. 2,400, 2,500, 2,300, yada, yada, yada. I know that's a little, your math, your head's probably exploding, but it enables you to see like a trend. It enables you to see that, like, if you look at like, here's my OA list spend ratio and here's my RA. RA generates more sales per dollar spent on it. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think most people would say that I was surprised. I actually thought this number was going to be a lot higher than this number. It's higher, but it's not a lot higher. And that's a little frustrating. I'm going to be perfectly honest, because I thought, man, if I go out and spend more money on RA, I'm going to make more profit because you can find better markdown items and yada, yada, yada. Okay, you probably can. I so far have not found that to be a huge difference. It's a difference. So if I go out and spend $1,000 right now on OA, I'm probably going to send in $2,100 worth of sell value. If I spend $1,000 on RA, I'm going to send in about $2,500 sell value. That's significant. But remember, I've got to go drive at least, maybe even stay overnight sometimes if it's too far away to get this RA. It's not without expense. The OA has the list, has the cost of lead list. That's an expense. So, I mean, there's an expense either way to this stuff. And then down here is just the total units shipped. It's just kind of everything total together. And I've spent about 23.7 and sent in 60K worth of listed items, 60K worth of sales value, which is okay. But I don't know. I wish it was better. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. This is my average selling price down here, $33.14, $38.95, $42.37, $40.98. That came straight out of Amazon. Amazon's business reports show you that. I don't have it up again right now, but if you go into your business reports, you can see that, and you do your sales and order by month. It'll show you your an ASP is a choice. So what do you make of all this if you're a reseller? Well, you make of all this that selling on Amazon is an expensive game. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. It is. It's a lot of numbers and a lot of volume. And you really have to know your numbers to know if what you're doing is worth it or not. Because if you only did this amount of numbers with the expense that I have in the business, you would probably say it's not really worth it. It's not a full-time gig yet. Does that make sense? Because I'm going to say, because I'm going to give you another number here. Let me see if I can find one other thing here. I'm going to stop sharing this one for a second and go back to my Amazon, because this is kind of instructive. I can't put both of these up at the same time. I don't think I can have two windows up, unfortunately, but I could be wrong about that. Let's find out. So if we go back over to, I'm going to go back over to my Amazon Seller Central for a moment. I'm going to show you something interesting that I thought, or at least I thought it was interesting. I'm going to go to the sales and order by month. And actually, I'm just going to do it from August. All right. So this is, let's share that. This is the sales and order by month. And you can see right here that I had hundreds. I had all these items this is how much I sold this year since August 1st. And this is how many units it was. You can see that that's 1,100. See here down at the bottom, 1,137 units, right? So, which is good. Don't get me wrong, but 1,137 units. All right. Remember that number, 1,137. Let's go back here, and you're going to see that since August, look down here in the bottom right-hand corner. Oh, you probably can't see it. Let me turn off this dumb banner here for a second. Sorry. So see here in the bottom right-hand corner, 1,174. So I've sold 1,100, and I've sent 1,174 in, and I've sold 1,137. What does that tell us? Well, I'm going to tell you what it tells us. It tells us that if you keep doing that, you're not going to have any growth in your business. I'm sending in 1,174 and selling 1,131 in the past 5 months. That means my sales will stay, if I kept doing that, my sales would stay pretty much right where they were unless I sent in higher dollar items. You know, I could do that. But those usually are more expensive to get. It's not like you can just magically pay the same amount for, you know, a $50 item as you do a $30 item, or a $100 item as you do for a $50 item. Usually they're going to be more on the front end. So your spending is going to go up as your revenue does too. And your actual inventory is not growing. So that number, gang, is exactly one of the things that you need to know if you're an Amazon seller. You need to know how many units you're moving each month, each quarter, each half a year, whatever your time frame is, and how many you're sending in. Because here's the reality. If you're sending in 1,000 units and you're only selling 500 units in a time frame, and you send 1,000, your inventory grew by 500, right? Which theoretically, if you send in good sourced items and, you know, that'll good ranks and so on, that should increase your sales in the future. On the other hand, it could also deplete you and destroy your capital if you send in 1,000 units and you only sold 500, and the 500 you sent in are just sitting there and they're not going to sell, or they're going to tank in price. This goes back to like knowing your numbers. This is why it's so critical to know your numbers, because if you don't, you'll wake up one day and your bank account will have zero or worse. So I've taken from this, going to look at all these numbers, and it can make your head swim. And I understand that. But you have to know this. Are you, each month, are you gaining inventory? Are you losing inventory? Are your sales going up? Are your sales going down? And is your profit going up, or is your profit going down? You need to know those three things: inventory, sales, and profit. If you don't know those three things, you don't know if what you're doing is worth this or not. And you'll likely be out of business. I was telling my friend, which is on here now, Frank, what's up, bud? I was telling Frank today that, I spent last month in December or November, I spent $1,683 on operational expenses for the business. And you might think that's a lot of money. It was actually $1,300, excuse me, and $80. But it's not really that much money on a $11,000 a month business. It's really not. That includes subscriptions. That's a big chunk of it. That's the biggest chunk of it. It includes some travel, includes a little bit of dining, some taxes, the IRS I had to pay last month. So that $1,300 has got to come off of all the profit you get out of the business. And it's very easy, if you don't know your numbers, to think, oh, I'm making money. Look, Amazon, they gave me back this much this month, and I only sent in this much. But then you forget about your operating expenses, which are a percent. And Frank and I were talking about that. Like, it's just a percentage, gang. Like, if you're going to do 10K in sales, some percentage of that is going to be here's your 10K. Then some percentage, a big percentage of it's going to be your cost of goods. And then the next biggest percentage, or roughly the same percentage, is probably going to be Amazon's fees. Those two together could be 75% of this top number. So 10,000 minus 5,000 minus 2,500. So now you got $2,500 left. You're like, woo, 2,500 bucks. Then you got the cost of your business. Then you've got your subscriptions. You've got your supplies. You've got travel or dining or professional services, or money you have to pay to the IRS if you got a payroll, shipping, contractors, whatever else you're using the business. I think, and I'd like to do a dive a little more in this. I think, and I was telling Frank this, that if you're doing 10K a month on Amazon, and it's online arbitrage for the most part, I think you're going to net, after everything, 1,000, maybe 1,500. I don't think it's going to be a lot higher than that. I just don't think there's any math around it. Because I've sat here and looked at mine forwards and backwards, and those you know me know this. And I just don't see how you would. I don't think you would net much more than that. If you do 20K, because you can keep ordering more from the same list, like your costs are like at a critical threshold, and then they go up incrementally as your sales go up. But they don't, like, there's a big slug of costs at the front end. Like, you have to pay that. Like, it's all kinds of crap. Like, what about your taxes? You can have an accountant do your taxes. If you're a corporation, you probably are, because they're a pain in the ass. That's $500 or $600. That's $40 to $50 a month, amortized over a whole year. It's cost. If you got payroll, if you've made yourself an employee like I did, you're going to have to pay. First of all, you're probably going to have to pay for a payroll service of some sort. Secondly, you're going to have to pay the IRS and your state. You might have to pay into your unemployment. You might have to pay into workman's comp, depending on your situation. You're certainly going to have to pay into the taxes that are due, the FICA taxes and so on. You're going to have to pay it, So it's like, if you make 10K a month, I'm trying to think, could you make $2,000 net on 10K a month doing only OA or RA? Difficult. Not impossible, but hard. And it also comes down to, what are you sourcing? And I'm going to show you an example of that. because this is an important lesson for everybody. I'm going to pull up an item here on Amazon, just any old item. It doesn't really matter. All right. I'm going to pull up an item that I had open here. I think I had this item open earlier. And this is a really easy way to figure this out. This is a Nike shoe. Oh, wow. This has got a lot of expense here. All right. So let's say, all right. So this is, let me share my screen with you real quick and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this is a Nike women's gymnastics sneaker and it's a size 10.5. You can see right down here. And this is a $180 shoe on Amazon, expensive shoe. Let's say that your cost on this shoe was $100, right? And I'm going to put this in my little AZ Insight calculator. Now you can see all the numbers change. It's showing you would make a profit of $37.91. Strong. Your ROI would be 38. Also strong. Your margin would only be 21%. So I don't think this is bad on this. And considering it's 21% and it's $38, which is a nice profit on an item, that's probably worth it. But think about it. For every $1,000 worth of this shoe you sell, after your cost of goods and Amazon's fees, you're going to get it back $210. That's what you're going to get back. And out of that $210 has to come your cost to run your business. And you might think, well, $210 is a lot of money. It is a lot of money. But now imagine that like this was some other, let's see if there's anything else here I can find that's probably a little bit, that's a really high priced item. Let's look at, we'll go to storage, see what we got here. Just anything really. If you're probably not going to be selling a lot of $210 price shoes. I mean, you can. Let's look at something that's a little more reasonable. Let's look at this foldable rack right here. This is 35 bucks, looks like. Amazon Basics foldable laundry rack. It's only sold by Amazon. I probably will be restricted on this, but maybe not. All right, so this item at $34.99, as soon as this pops up, and let's say your buy cost on this was, man, they got a super low profit on this. Why is this profit so low? Oh, they're making a huge fulfillment fee. That's not correct. Oh, wow, that's got the wrong thing on it. Somebody's been fooling around with that listing. Let's do a better one. We'll do one of these. Sorry, that was a bad example because somebody has, I have a feeling they put in the wrong info. Maybe they didn't. Sometimes people put in the wrong info on dimensions because they want to show that the price to fulfill it would be too high to scare off other sellers. True story. All right, this one's better. All right, so this one's $30.49. You see right here, and it's got a profit of $9.88. And that's probably about right because it's kind of a larger item, 25 by 25, weighs 7 pounds. All right, so let's say you got this for $4. You know, you got them on a closeout. $5.60 profit, 140% ROI, but only 18% margin. So for every $1,000 you sell this item, you're only going to get $180 back. And you're going to have to risk, you know, a lot of money to do that. This is why it's important to know like your margins, because your margin is what, while this number is important and the ROI is theoretically important, like you can see here, the profit is okay. $5.60 profit's okay. The ROI is tremendous. The margin is kind of eh. I don't think I can sell this item, but even if I could, I would probably pass on this. First of all, it's a really big item. I don't even think that fits in a Lowe's box. It's too big, but it's a big pain in the ass to even send in. You could FBM it, I guess, but it's a lot of risk for not a lot of return. And the problem is I'm not going to get a lot of margin back out on it in the long run. I'm only going to make $5.60. So this is where like all the numbers game come in, if that makes sense, like knowing these numbers. And I've learned that this past 4 or 5 months, like knowing your numbers for Amazon is way more important than eBay. eBay has a lower fee structure. No doubt about it. They're not providing fulfillment. That's the biggest reason why. Because of that, I'm going to say this, and I know somebody listening to this or somebody hears this on the replay is probably going to get mad at me and call me out. Because eBay has a lower fee structure, You can be lazy as a seller in terms of knowing your numbers and kind of get away with it on eBay to a point. Now, I'm not saying you can be a big, huge seller on eBay and get away with it. You won't. You will crush yourself and go broke. But I'm saying that because there's a generous fee structure there and you're not paying for fulfillment, you can risk, the same amount of capital as you would for Amazon items and just let them sit in your bedroom, in your closet, in your garage, and kind of get away with it. Not the case on Amazon. If you're doing FBA, you will get crushed. You will go out of business. And I think you need to know your numbers on both. But eBay allows you to be a little more lackadaisical. So I know there's a couple of comments I wanted to get to and so on. Sadie, it said, that's interesting. The small difference. Also would have thought RA would be much better. I think going back to the RA and OA breakdown. Yeah, I'm with you. I didn't think it. I thought RA would be significantly better. It's better. It's not what I would consider to be significantly better, in my opinion. So, what is Mark got to say? What's up, Mark? I'm part-timers, selling jeans. If I want to make 1K net a month on Amazon, how would you do it? I would do OA. Okay, so to make 1K a month on Amazon, now we're not talking about necessarily jeans here, but if you want to make 1K a month net on Amazon, we can work our math backwards. Let me see if I can get this up. Let's say, what have I got? What do I got here? 1K, you want to make 1K net. Let me look at this before I look stupid. I think if you do, I don't think you can net that much though. I would probably want to say, because technically if you could average 20% on your margin, you could do it for pretty low, right? Divided by 0.2, you could do it on $5,000 a month in sales. The problem with that is that you need to get enough inventory to do 5K a month in sales. You're going to need to probably sell 150 items a month, somewhere in that range, 140. It's going to depend on your ASP. If you're a little lower ASP, you're going to be more like 175, 180. So you're going to need to be sending in a lot of items. You're going to need, and here's where the challenge comes in, Mark, because you're going to have, here's where your operational cost. Now, remember, you've only got $5,000 a month in sales, right? With that argument, let's say that you get your inventory for, let's say you get it 40%, 2,000. So you're like, you still got $3,000 left. And then let's say Amazon's fees are roughly, let's say 20% of the 5,000, which is $1,000. That leaves you 2,000. Now, out of that's got to come your operational cost. So you're going to have a repricer. You're going to have probably an inventory sort lab thing, inventory lab or something like that. You're going to have your, you're going to have your travel cost if you're driving around to get this, or some sort of, if you're doing OA lead lists, let's say you're doing 2 OA lead lists, that's another $200 a month. So now you're down to, you can only have $700 of expenses. You've got probably driving around expenses and gas and maybe even travel. If you're doing an ERA, that could easily be $200 a month. You're going to have your amortized cost of like the IRS or an accountant and things like that over the period of a year. That could easily be, we'll say it's even 75. So now you're down to 1,425. So you have about a $400 cushion there. Possible, but here's where it gets tricky. Now I'm going to throw a number in here that not a lot of people talk about in the reseller world. Of that $5,000 in sales, some percentage of that is going to tank, get returned and cannot be sold, gets lost or damaged in the warehouse, you name it, bad buys, whatever. If it's even 10%, you're under 1,000 in that. 5% would have been, or 10% would have been $500. And it could be 10%. That's a part that not a lot of people talk about. I would want to probably do more like 7 just to kind of be sure of it in my mind. But, again, that's just kind of rough estimates off the top of my head. Frank said, that's what's happening to me, and that's why I'm so stagnant. Yeah, buddy, we just talked about that, didn't we? Sounds like the long tail versus the quick flip argument. Let me take this dumb thing off here. Sorry. The long tail versus the quick flip bar. Yeah, I mean, somewhat. I don't think you can do long tail on Amazon as easily unless you're selling really high dollar items, because you eat up your profit and storage fees, and the buy box gets tanked over time on some products. Moonshine Fuel says it's probably harder nowadays to get the higher net than it used to be. That could be Moonshine Fuel. I don't know the answer to that because I wasn't selling as much on Amazon back in the day, but I think you're probably right about that. That's pretty low unless the time and work investment is low also. Well, and that's the other factor I didn't talk about, Sadie, is that, how much time are you spending to make this money? How much time is Mark spending to make his $1,000? How much time am I spending? I would like to just net a couple grand off of Amazon. And looking at it today, I think I'm going to have to get more to like $20,000 a month in sales to do it. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it for much less than that. It's possible, but you got to be so strategic. You're going to be on point with repricing. You've really got to nail sales ranks and Keepa and velocity and making sure you get rid of items and move them on through the process. It's a lot of work, and it's not necessarily easy, super intuitive work. So you're saying if you want to net 1K, you're saying send in 10K in retail. Oh, for sure you will net 1K, I would think, unless you for sure will. You for sure will. I mean, you would have to just be terrible at this to do that, to do less than that. Unless the only way you wouldn't net 1,000 if you're selling 10K is oh, you're saying sending in 10K retail or sell 10K? If you're sending in 10K, of course you are. You're gonna sell more like 20,000. You could make really bad decisions and send in stuff that just sets or really tanks in price, and you could end up having to take losses on things. Yeah, I mean, Sadie says he agrees that eBay is way more forgiving. It is for sure. But I think that can lead to stagnation as a seller and, a business person. If you're constantly getting bailed out from your bad decisions just by and when I say bailed out, it doesn't mean you're thriving on eBay. It just means you maybe didn't lose money. You did okay. Rich Colby, how are you? Big difference between Amazon and eBay besides fulfillment is time. Absolutely agree. And the long-term storage fees will cost you on sale inventory. Yeah. I mean, Amazon's got higher fees. Let's just say it for what it is. It is what it is. If you send in 10K a month, and if you do 10K in sales, you might pay $2,500 in fees. Not at all impossible. You probably will. Maybe even a little more than that. And you throw in returns, you throw in unsaleable merchandise. Returns are really crappy on Amazon. And let me tell you why. Not because you get returns. You're always going to get returns. But they're crappy because say you send an item in on the 1st and it hits the warehouse on the 7th and goes live. So 6 days later. And then it sells on the 10th. And then somebody gets it and decides that it's damaged. They don't like it, blah, 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 whatever. They send it back on, I don't know what the time frame is now. They have 30 days. Let's say they send it back on the 30th. And then it goes back to the Amazon warehouse and they check it after a few days, and it goes live again on the 3rd, we'll say, of the next month. So in effect, you had the money for a little bit, but then it got pulled back out from reserve. So for like 30 days, that item couldn't sell. It was in the limbo between getting sent in to going live, to getting sold, to getting sent there, to getting returned, to coming back, to checking again. That that hurts, you know. And if you think about it, you get enough of those going in your business at once, you got a whole bunch of items that are not capable to make any sales on for a month at a time. That can really add up. Rich says it's getting harder to get clearance with more and more people selling on Amazon. Yeah. I think RA clearance is still a thing. You have to be more strategic now. Like, you can't just walk into Walmart necessarily and walk out with $1,000 worth of stuff. I mean, you can. It's not easy now. I don't know if it was ever easy, but it's definitely a challenge, which maybe it should be. Yeah, Moonshine Fuel says everything got a bit of a difficulty adjustment across the board as far as supply. I think, are you talking about the supply chain disruptions, Moonshine? Because if so, I 100% agree with that. I mean, everything's crazy this year. Switching to FBM can increase those margins for sure, but FBM, you have to watch the shipping on it. That can crush you. You have to meet one of the rules with the shipping on FBM. If you're an Amazon seller, you have to ensure the same time to everywhere in the continental United States. So if you live in North Carolina, like I do, you have to ensure the same time for a resident in your shipping template. I believe this is right. It's what I ran into the other day. I have to ensure the same shipping time frame from somebody who gets an item here in North Carolina to someone who gets one in Oregon. So that's a challenge. And that means, you have to kind of temper that. But I may be wrong about that, but that's what I saw last time I was in there. Say says the biggest issue with Amazon with the low margins doesn't take much going wrong to make a buy, a wash, or even a loss. Yeah, but I was going to share that. I don't know if I have it. I've only had a small percentage of my items I've lost on so far in the past 5 months. It hasn't been many. Now, that's part of that is because I have a pretty aggressive repricing strategy. I would rather accept 5 or 10% less for an item and get it sold than have it set and hold out. And then the buy box tanks and it stays down there and you don't sell it for months. So I don't really tend to lose on too many items. I did lose on a bunch of bras I bought earlier this year. Oh, Nordstrom Rack. You're a foul temptress. But yeah, everybody jumped on them and I probably lost money on over half of them. It was terrible. But for the most part, my repricing was much different back then. It's much better now. I tend to move stuff out and get it gone because I don't want to lose money on something. Like, that is way worse than just making a little bit of money in my mind. At least the little bit of money you make, you get back your cost of goods sold, you can flip that into something else. It's like you get another shot. You get another bullet in the chamber, so to speak, and you can take another shot at it. But yeah, Mark, none of us are sure about the Amazon road. I'm not sure about the eBay road either. I'm not sure about any road, honestly, but you got to do something. If you wait till you're comfortable to go down the Amazon road, you'll probably never go down it. There is no such thing as being comfortable on it, because the second you get comfortable on it, they change it all up. They change the rules. This is different now. Now you got to do it this way. This happened. You got to ship here. You got to ship there. You got to do that. It's never ending. I don't know if Amazon has more changes than eBay, but they are significant changes a lot of times when they do come down. I'm sorry, I'm missing some other points here. Oh, yeah, Rich, sorry I missed this comment over there. Don't be sure they're profitable first. Don't send anything and everything to FBA. The fees will hurt you. You make a great point, Rich, because I was talking with Frank about this earlier, that you make your money when you buy, not when you sell. You make your money when you buy the product because you've bought at a good price. One of the things I really like, let's see if I can show you this. I'm going to go back to showing you this again, my AZ Insight screen. I don't know if you guys can see over here, but one of the things I really like about AZ Insight, like we had this hypothetical $4 cost on this item. It shows you the break-even price right here of $23.90. That means if it got to that price, you would break even. You wouldn't make money, you would lose money. So one of the things I like to do is I'll look at this $23.90 when I'm going through and evaluating a product real quick. And I'll look here. This is Keepa. I'm going to look at a whole year here. you can see here, like the price at FBA right here was around $25. Down here, it was at 23 and then 25. Up here was 28. Right now it's around 30. It really never went below 23. So could it go below that in the next 30, 60 days? Sure, but it's not likely. So I think that's a great way to kind of protect yourself and say, even worst case, if it goes to, and you'll see if I click on it, changes the price to that, and it basically makes your profit minus a penny. So it's basically flat. Even if it went down to that price, which it really hasn't been to but once for very briefly, I'm not going to lose anything. I'm going to basically get my cost of goods back. So I really like that feature about AZ Insight. I think that's a great feature. It just allows you a little peace of mind. We can very quickly look at that, keep a graph and say, oh, even if it goes to that, I should be okay. Let's see. You seem to enjoy selling in a pragmatic manner, which probably most would not enjoy that. Yeah, I probably tend to analyze things too much sometimes. I don't think I have a paralysis by analysis because I still act and do things. But I do like to analyze my opportunities to see if they make sense or not, for sure. And probably sometimes to my detriment. But let's say you send in 10 of the same toy and you're making 20% net. If 2 get returned, you're done. It's over for that buy, plus your time expense are still applicable. Yeah, and 20%. Okay, you're right, Sadie. I would say 20% on a 10 unit on toys would be a really high return rate in the long run. 20% is really high. Like 20% is like clothing numbers, shoe numbers. It's not really toy numbers, but yeah, you could. I don't think toy returns are that high. I could be wrong, but I feel like from a few friends of mine, toy returns are more in the single digits. They're not a huge number. Now, other categories, for sure. Yeah. So Rich says if FBM, a lot of buyers won't see your listings if they only want Prime. That's true, Rich. However, if you look for items, so here's my tip for the day that I've learned on that. You're right. If buyers only want to buy something Prime, they won't see your offer. But look for offers that have lost the buy box and it's suppressed. Because, like, let's say that it was an item that was, selling for $25 for a year. And then all of a sudden, whoever had it ran out, Amazon ran out, whoever, and sellers came on listing and jacked up to $50, and Amazon suppressed the buy box, and there hasn't been a buy box for 3 months. And now it's at $50. Okay. But it could be selling at $50 because there's demand, and even at the higher price. And that kind of listing, I will jump on FBM and even FBA. I'll go back and do an FBA listing sometimes and see if I can get Amazon to give me a buy box at like 30, 35, and they might not. They might still suppress it at that price. But worst case, I can always change it. I can always, I could always have it send it back and change it to FBM if it just really wouldn't move or I couldn't ever get a buy box. But that's a little trick sometimes you can use to get around that. And you can always FBM it. But let's see. Mark says, with eBay, I know I can sell jeans with no problem. Yeah, I talked to my friend Mark, the guy who bought all my jeans back 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whatever that was. He said his sell-through percentage is about 9% on jeans. I don't know if that's your sell-through percentage or if yours is higher or lower, but he said that's what he's seeing. He hasn't been putting a lot of work into eBay recently, but that's what he was seeing. Oops, sorry, I didn't hit that. Yeah. And Rich says, trying to get ungated in certain categories, I simply can't get approval. Biggest regret is not starting earlier. Could have grandfathered in. Yeah. I'm gonna give you a crazy number, Rich. I'm gonna show you a crazy number right now. That's gonna be. It's probably gonna flip some people out about like. Let me find this. All right, I don't want to show that. All right, so right now I'm in two different lead lists. This is crazy. So this is the percentage. This is the number of leads I've gotten in the one group, 4,500, and the ones I've evaluated in the other one, 161. But let's look at the 4,500 for a moment. 38% of those I cannot sell. Doesn't mean I won't sell them. It means I can't sell them because I'm restricted. That's frustrating with the lead list for sure. When you can't sell over a third of the items are on the list, it's like, oof. So I've been getting about 4 lists right now with this particular source each week. So I'm getting like 200 leads a week, roughly. So that means, nearly 80 of them, I can't even sell them. And I'm only buying about 7%. And I've bought almost 1,000 units, but so don't feel bad. I feel your pain. And I feel like I've gotten ungated on a ton of brands this year. Much more than I've had in the past. I picked up Nike. I picked up Adidas. I don't have some of the other big brands that are out there that I probably need to do all the little tricks and tips there is to get ungated in some of those. But so don't feel bad. It is what it is. Being gated on Amazon is just part of it. But all right, guys. Well, listen, I appreciate you hanging out with me today. Please, before you leave, if you wouldn't mind, hit that like button or subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel. I'm going to catch up with you guys real soon with some other stuff going on with my selling and so on. On to 100K is the next step. Leave me a comment down below if you wouldn't mind. I'd love to hear from you, or reach out to me on Facebook. You can find me there under Prof Sales. There's a whole page for Prof Sales if you want. But that's going to do it for today, and I will see you guys all real soon.